This is the view that I have had from my apartment in Florence, Italy for the last 4 months. For most of those months, I did not appreciate that view. Mornings where I could have spent time looking out the window, listening to the birds sing, or admiring the look of the city at night, I didn't. I was so stuck in my own head, worrying about coming home, that I didn't appreciate this beautiful city the way that I should have. And now, with only 15 days left in the city of Florence, I'm coming to that realization. The message of this video is kind of me correcting myself for bullying myself about it. Stop bullying yourself and hating yourself and calling it standards. For so much of my life, I believed that if I was unbelievably hard on myself and held myself to a higher standard, a standard that's high enough to be called perfectionism and almost always not reaching what I expected of myself because it was nearly impossible or extremely unrealistic to achieve, I called it standards. But what it really was masking self-hatred. When I got well enough to stop self-harming, my anger and frustration towards myself needed another outlet. So what did I do? I started holding myself to an even higher standard than before. I started expecting myself to say or do things perfectly. That if I watched enough self-help content and I knew all of the tools to deal with emotions, I would never feel hurt or vulnerable or afraid ever again. So I'm telling you, stop bullying yourself, insulting yourself, and being terrible to yourself and calling it standards, because it's not. It's just a mask, and what's underneath it is the true self-hatred that you have. The self-hatred that you're trying to remix or alter to deem socially acceptable, because it's a lot more acceptable to watch really harsh motivational videos that tell you to get your ass up and stop being lazy and being a loser and calling that help than it is to say that you're worth nothing and you're not even worth getting up and doing something. Harsh self-help content is literally just self-hatred in disguise, and self-hatred is a poison that will kill you slowly and entirely. Self-hatred is something that infects you from the bottom up, from the inside out. There is no escaping self-hatred if you do not work on it. But I think so many self-help resources today are misconfigured and totally screwed up to look like they're trying to help you by calling you a loser. And sometimes you do need to hear a little bit of harsh truth, but underneath that, you can see even someone who listens to those motivational speeches, those terrible, harsh motivational speeches, and gets something out of them, it's still concealing a self-hatred that they have not dealt with. I used to beat myself up in my head once I got well enough to stop self-harming by, for example, getting exams back. If I got an 89 on an exam instead of a 90, I called myself a loser and that I wasn't smart, I wasn't dedicated enough, I wasn't working as hard as everyone else. And when I say that mindset to other people, they admire it. They think, wow, she works really hard, or wow, she's not letting herself fall into the ordinary crowd. But that's not the case. That is disguised self-hatred. It was a creative way for my brain to be able to justify me being terrible to myself, bullying myself for my mistakes, when at the end of the day, I'm just as human as everybody else. Being mean to yourself is different than being honest with yourself. And I think that those two words have become a little bit too synonymous lately, at least in the online space that I was a part of for a while. And I just want to say that you beating yourself up until the point where you can't look at yourself in the mirror, or you can't imagine that there's a reality out there in which you are worthy of love, I don't think that's working for you. You know, it might work for some people to be brutally honest with themselves, but like I said, there is a very thin line between being brutally honest and just being cruel. Think about the things that you say to yourself in your inner monologue. Now imagine you looking your best friend in the face, or your spouse, or the person you love most in the world, and saying those exact same things. Your best friend would probably be absolutely disgusted and hurt and feel betrayed. So why do you feel okay saying those things to yourself? You shouldn't. It's a lot easier to be hard on ourselves because when you look around and you don't know what it's like on the inside of anybody else's head, it's easy to believe that everyone else has everything figured out and you're just the odd one out who doesn't. But that's not true. Everyone has insecurities about things that you don't even notice in them, on them, in front of them. And I just wish that someone had told me that my perfectionism was just a form of self-hatred, because I couldn't physically hurt myself anymore. So what I did instead was mentally hurt myself. I made myself feel almost that same sick gratification by bullying myself that I got from a blade. And I like I'm saying, the reason why I'm making this video is because I wish someone told me that. I wish I thought of it that way. Now, how I got the inspiration for this video, and we're gonna delve a little bit more deeper into the topic, but this is a very impromptu video. Like, I was just standing at my window looking outside, and this video idea just popped up in my head, so forgive me if it's a little bit all over the place. This is not a scripted video. But I was looking outside, and I was admiring this stunning view from my window, and I took a deep breath, and almost immediately my brain kicked into a very punishing mindset of, look what you've done. Look what you haven't done. Look at all the mornings that you wasted when you could have been looking out this window, and you just went right to start your day. You just went to the bathroom, put your makeup on, and you didn't take a moment to be present. How stupid are you? All these people pray to be in Italy, and you spent most of your mornings miserable when other people dream of being here. How stupid is that? How could you not have known better? How could you not have known that you would feel better about this in a few months? Why didn't you push yourself harder? Now, when I hear that, if that sounds familiar to you, if you relate to that, even if obviously it's not about Italy for you, if it's about anything else, if you relate to that kind of inner monologue, I want to talk about that. I want you to listen to what I have to say. Because my entire life, I've had people say, my God, Bella, I cannot imagine what a day in your head looks like, and I would never want to experience it. That can be a very hurtful thing to say, but until I heard that from a lot of people, I realized maybe my head wasn't a healthy place to be. So the point is, I had to correct that thinking. The way to fix overthinking mindsets or self-hatred, I mean, yes, it is difficult, but I would say the process is relatively simple. I didn't say it's easy, but you have to just catch those moments where your old mindset, or maybe even your current mindset, sneaks in and tries to ruin something for you. Where I was trying to gaze at the city skyline and the stars and just be present and be grateful, my old mindset of ruining the present moment came up and said, okay, this is what my brain is used to saying. We have to tell her this. This is what we're used to telling her. We can't let her enjoy the present because she's screwed up in the past, or she should have known better. But you hear this saying all the time, hindsight is 20/20. I never would have, I didn't know that I would feel better about being here. I thought I was going to be miserable the whole time I was here because of some things, some baggage I brought with me mentally. But I'm present now. I have 15 days left to make the absolute most out of them, and I will not benefit from beating myself up about the past. Sure, yeah, it sucks that I spent more days stuck in my head than being in the present, but I'm a human being. I was going through a lot of emotions that were very new for me. I am on the other side of the world without my family, having to make an entirely new group of friends, having to balance academics on top of it, having to forgive myself and release a lot of really tough trauma from the beginning of the year. Some beautiful church bells outside. But I'm present now, and that's what matters. I did the work. I knew that something was wrong and I wanted to feel better, so I did the work to feel better. But my brain doesn't want me to think that. My brain wants to guilt itself into still feeling bad about what I didn't do, or that my experience was right or wrong compared to someone else's. And that's just not the case. Your experience in your life, your travels, whatever you go through are your own. And just because somebody is going on a different path than you doesn't make your path incorrect. And that's something that I've personally really struggled with grasping. That, for example, my roommate, she has had an absolute fabulous time here since we got here. From that first week, we walked to this beautiful bridge called the Ponte Vecchio, and we looked at the water at night and we said to each other, we were talking about our experiences, and I was saying, I can't wait to go home. And this was in the first week. And it was kind of a Debbie Downer thing to say, but I was valid and I'm allowed to express my opinions. See, I just caught myself just now trying to make me feel bad about expressing myself. And she said, I wish I could stay here forever. And her saying that really stuck with me. because then I started to feel guilty about not having the same experience as her. If I don't feel the same way as all these other people I'm meeting that are thrilled to be here and excited to wake up every single day and ready to go out and explore and not just lay in bed, then that must mean I'm doing something wrong, right? But no, life is not black and white. There is nuance, so much nuance to this experience. If I didn't experience and feel all of those dark, sad feelings I did in the beginning, I never would have published my second poetry book. 70 of the 100 poems in that poetry book were born from the struggle and the strife that I was suffering when I first got here. And I know that might sound, spoiled or whatever, but I'm not, and I am eternally grateful for this opportunity. But I was going through a lot. I had a lot of things that I was battling, and I did my best with what I had at the time. And that's the biggest thing that I want to remind all of you. Whatever situation you're in, you're doing the best with what you have at the time. Right now, yeah, sure, it's easy to look back on your old self and say, oh, why didn't I just deal with it like this or like that? Or why? It's so obvious. It's right in front of you. He's not into you. Why don't you know that? Or, oh my God, if you just spent that extra hour studying instead of going to the jazz club, you would have gotten a 100. It's easy to look back and say those things, but you don't know that it would have turned out differently, even as you look back. Sure, you might have done things that would have improved the situation, but you're also a human being. You're allowed to make mistakes. My mistakes have helped me grow into the person I am now. I really believe over these 4 months I have changed a lot and gone through a kind of metamorphosis and shed a skin, I feel. Because Florence, I slowly fell in love with it. All the stupid little things that I hated when I first got here, or the stupid little things I never noticed for the longest time being here. I fell in love with it, and yeah, it's a really bittersweet thing to be leaving. But how lucky am I to have experienced something so hard and so beautiful and so unique of an experience. Sad to leave, but also be excited to return home. A lot of people cannot say that they are enthusiastic to return home to where they grew up, or return home from the holidays from college. A lot of people can't say that. So I think reminding myself that it's okay, reminding myself and you that it's okay to have complex feelings about things. It's not black and white. Nothing ever is. Everything is nuanced. I'm allowed to be happy and sad about leaving Florence. And just because I'm sad about leaving it doesn't mean that I did something wrong, or that I screwed up, or that I should have done something better. I was talking to a friend the other day expressing my feelings about leaving, about coming home. And I said, I don't know. Did I do enough? Did I do what I was supposed to do? Did I take advantage of the experience to 110%? And he said to me, think about everything. Looking back, do you honestly feel you got everything that you could have out of this experience? And I said no. Because of what I was going through in the beginning. I pushed myself to get out of bed and go to cooking classes. I went to all my classes. I explored the city. Sure, there are some things I wish I did a little bit differently or explored a little bit more, but I did my best with what I had at the time. So I think how I really answered his question was, I did the most with what I had at the time. That was essentially what I told him. And he said, keep going. You still have time left. If you think about everything you've done, is there really anything left that you want to do that you haven't done yet? And I thought about that for a second, and I realized, no, there wasn't anything left that I wanted to do that I didn't do yet. So I'm beating myself up over something that I don't even truly feel. And he criticized me for using the word supposed to. The words supposed to, because he's right. He essentially told me there are no rules to this. Your path is completely unique to every other person that's here, and there's no right and wrong way to experience this. And I realized he was right. Taking the words supposed to out of my vocabulary made things a lot easier. Or should. The word should as well. For example, the other day, I was laying in bed and I was reading. with a candle lit, and I was writing some letters to my future self, which is an activity that I enjoy doing a lot. And I was sealing my letter with a wax seal, which I also love. And I was thinking to myself, I should be out right now. I should be at a club. I should be making friends. I'm supposed to. And all these ideas came running through my head. But then I asked myself, do I even want to? Do I want to be at a club right now? Or do I feel like I'm supposed to be because that's what everyone else is doing? And the answer came so quickly. It was quite alarming. I didn't want to be at a club, and that's okay. You don't have to do what everybody else does. And I've never really done that my whole life. I've kind of always marched to the beat of my own drum. But as I'm getting older, I want to expand my horizons and make sure I'm experiencing as much as possible. And I felt a little bit guilty. This actually happened to me quite often on this trip. I very much enjoy sitting in a unique cafe and reading a book and having a cappuccino a hell of a lot more than I enjoy going to the club. Like, I have to know a few weeks ahead of time before going to the club. I have to be mentally ready for it. I have to have a good body image day just to get dressed to go there. And that's okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. So if you feel like that or relate to that in any way, I want to tell you the same thing. You don't have to be into what everyone else is into, and that's okay. And your interests aren't wrong because they don't align with the general population. I think I will leave Florence having learned a lot. But my main message is stop beating yourself up, okay? You would never speak to anyone you love the way that you speak to yourself. So when you have negative thoughts, try to say that to yourself in the mirror out loud, and you'll hear how absurd those thoughts are. Or write them down, and sometimes even as you read them, as you're writing them, you'll be like, what the heck, this isn't true. And I know that takes a lot of development over time, and it might not work right away for you, but that's the thing. The time is going to pass anyway, and the meaner you are to yourself, the more you're going to allow people to treat you with disrespect. How we treat ourselves is a reflection of how we feel about ourselves. And how we feel about ourselves, whether we like it or not, is reflected onto the world. And people will treat you depending on how they feel about you, but how you respect yourself also has an impact on who you surround yourself with. The kind of people and the kind of treatment you're okay with because of how you feel about yourself. If you loathe yourself and think you're hideous, then when a romantic partner or a friend kind of tells you that, you're not going to object it because you believe that deep down. But if you believe that you're a confident, strong, intelligent person who's worthy of being in the rooms that you occupy, that energy will come out around you and people will see that. And that will sort of mostly how people treat you is a reflection on them, but a small percentage of it is how you feel about yourself and how they choose to respond to that. So to all my perfectionists, all my oldest daughters out there, all my overthinkers, stop bullying yourself and calling it standards, because that's not what it is. It is self-hatred in a dark, misshapen form, convincing you that this way it's okay to be there. Self-hatred deserves no place in your brain, and there is a difference between being brutally honest with yourself when you need a wake-up call and being cruel to yourself. I feel like I have more to say on this topic, but I'm not exactly sure how to articulate this, but I'm hoping my point is coming across. That think about your inner monologue for real, like every little thing that you say to yourself, and now look at it through the lens of, okay, maybe this is self-hatred trying to sabotage my growth. And watch how different those words and things you tell yourself sound. Listen, and you'll realize, okay, wait, this is holding me back a little bit. What is this fear? What is this hatred? What is this stemming from? Because only then, when you acknowledge it, can you do something about it and move on from it. Even though I may not have appreciated this beautiful view in August when I got here, I still have the rest of November and the beginning of December to appreciate it. And I'm not gonna let self-hatred bully me into not appreciating this view. So I hope this video helped you, even just a little bit. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I would love to see you here again. And give me your thoughts down below. I love reading your guys' comments, and it really means the world to me. So yeah, if you related, I want to hear your experiences. I want to talk. I want to start a dialogue with you. I think people talking about their feelings and being vulnerable is one of the most important things in the world. And it took me a very long time to open up this YouTube channel, knowing that anyone I've ever known could find this. But I'm telling you with confidence, stop bullying yourself, stop insulting yourself, and start growing. Change your inner monologue. Stop bullying yourself and calling it standards. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.